Okay, before we start today, let's review our learning objective. Everyone read it out loud with me. I can generate a number pattern that follows a given rule. And we said that word generate means what? Create or make, okay? And we came up with a couple of learning takeaways that we can write. Write multiplication as a number with a variable right next to it. That means we're going to replace the variable with a number and then multiply. We also said if we know the input number, we follow the rule. If we know the output number, we reverse the rule, okay? So all of these that we did yesterday were two-step rules. You had to do two things, multiply by 3 and add 5 to come up with the output number. Today, these are a little easier. They are one-step rules. And so really this is just a practice in how to write a rule as an equation with variables, okay? So for today, on 1 through 6, our input number is going to be X, and our output number is going to be Y, okay? So the first thing that I like to point out, and you may see the rule right away, but remember we're trying to also talk through it so that people who are not with us today can understand how we're coming up with the rule. So even if we see the rule right away, we're going to kind of talk through it, okay? So looking at this first one, 8, 16, 32, 64, are the numbers increasing as we go or decreasing as we go? They're increasing. So that means I could do one of two mathematical operations. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Which two will give me a greater number? Which two of those will give me a greater number? Yes, Nolan.
Add or multiply.
Add or multiply. So I can look at this right away and I know that my rule is either going to be involving adding or multiplying. So let's look at 8 to 16. 8 plus what equals 16? Connor? 8. So before I write my rule, x plus 8 equals y, I want to check to make sure that my rule works in every example. So 8 plus 6 is 16. I'm sorry, 8 plus 8 is 16. Is 16 plus 8 32? No, 16 plus 8 is 24. So my rule is not add 8. So I'm going to try multiply. 8 times what gives me 16? Kenley? 2. So let's again check the rule in every example. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 32 times 2 is 64. So remind me, how do I write a rule that's multiplying using a variable? How would I write that rule? Go back to your notes from yesterday if you don't know. If your hand is not up, you should be looking at your notes from yesterday under the learning takeaway. When I have a variable, how do I write the rule as multiplication? Mason?
So first you write what you're multiplying by,
Uh-huh.
and you write the variable.
So what are we multiplying by?
2.
So it's 2x equals y. So 2 times 8 equals 16. 16 times 2 equals 32. 32 times 2 equals 64. Yes, ma'am. Well, so the y is what you get when you follow the rule. So if 8 is my x, then my y is 16. If 16 is my x, then my y is 32. If 32 is my x, then my y is 64. Okay? What if 5 is my x? Then what is my y? If 5 is my x, what is my y? Mia? 10. 2 times 5 equals 10. Okay, let's look at the next set of numbers. 448, 112, 28, and 7. They are decreasing. So what are my two options for the operations? It could be what, Nolan?
Subtraction or division?
Subtraction or division. Now, when the numbers go backwards, I really recommend coming and looking at those last two numbers because they are smaller and easier to work with. What is 28 minus 7? 21. So are we subtracting 21 each time? If I were 448 minus 21, it's going to be 427. So it is not minus 21, so it's going to be division. 28 divided by what is 7? 28 divided by what is 7? Ethan? 4. So let's try that out. 28 divided by 4 is 7. What about 448 divided by 4? Now let's just think through that really quick. What is 400 divided by 4? 400 divided by 4 is what? 100. That's a partial quotient. Go ahead and take out your 400. 48 divided by 4 is what? We can do 40 divided by 4. McKenna? 48 divided by 4 is 12. Go ahead and subtract that out. So it's 112. So far our rule is working out to be true. And 448 divided by 4 is 128. And 28 divided by 4 is 7. What about 112 divided by 4? Everybody figure that out. Is it 28? Is 112 divided by 4 48? I'm sorry, 28? Okay. If 20 is my partial quotient, then I'm subtracting 80. That leaves me with 32. 4 times 8 is 32. So 28 is my quotient. So the rule divided by 4 works out every time. Okay? How can I write the rule? How can I write the rule as an equation with x and y? What is my rule? Nolan?
4 divided. We have 4x equals 1.
No, not 4x. That would be multiplying by 4. We're dividing by 4. Sam?
448 divided by 4.
Okay, but I'm not going to use 448 because it's a rule that applies to any number. So what am I put instead of a number? I need to put what?
A variable.
A variable. So it's x divided by 4 equals y. So when I replace that x with any of these numbers and divide by 4, I get the y. Okay, now my pattern is 5, 20, 80, 320, 1,280. My numbers are increasing, right? Okay, am I adding or multiplying? What do you want to try? Add or multiply? Trace? Okay, so 5 times what is 20? 4. So let's check to see if it works in every case. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 times 4 is 80. 80 times 4 is 320. 320 times 4, I'm going to guess, is 1,280. And that is correct. So how do I write my rule? If the rule is times 4, how do I write that as an equation? Brady.
4x equals y.
Very good. 4x equals y. Okay, what do we think the rule is for number 4? The numbers are decreasing, so it's either subtract or divide. What do we think the rule is? McKenna? Subtracting what? 3. So let's try it. 29 minus 3 is 26. Minus 3 is 23. minus 3 is 20, minus 3 is 17, minus 3 is 14, minus 3 is 11. How do I write that rule as an equation? How do I write that rule as an equation, Amanda? Do you know the rule? Who can help her? Penelope?
Maybe 11 divided by 3 equals y.
Okay, we didn't divide. What did we do?
Subtract.
We subtracted, and we're not going to use one of these numbers because the rule can apply to any number. So what do I use instead of a number? A variable. So it's x minus 3 equals y. Okay?